Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and get started.
This is a question from Shubham, who has a question on the dream state and deep sleep meditation. Is there any reality in the dream state? Should we listen to the advice of gurus like Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda in dreams, or is it my own self guiding me? Also, one more question. Papaji, a disciple of Raman Maharishi, says that we should go to a deep sleep-like state in meditation, where there is nothing at all, but you tell us to meditate on spiritual texts. Because of so many methods, my method of meditation keeps on changing. Please help.
Okay. First of all, the question of dreams. Now, is there any reality in dream or in deep sleep? Vedanta will say, yes, there is. And the reality not where you would think it is. And not in what you are dreaming about. The reality in the dream state is the dreamer. The person who was lying on the bed and forgotten himself or herself, forgotten that you are dreaming. Only when you forget that, then there is dreaming. Otherwise, it will be what is called lucid dreaming. So when you are aware only of the dream and the constituents of the dream and the persons and the events in the dream, none of those are real as such, because they are imagined in the mind of the dreamer. But the dreamer is real. So Vedanta takes a very strict, austere, spare approach to that. You, the dreamer, are real. Vedanta will say, I am not interested in what you are dreaming about, but I am interested in the fact that who is dreaming or what is dreaming. What experienced the dream, not what you dreamt about. That's Vedanta. Many people are sort of confused about that. We expect some kind of esoteric guidance about our dreams, like a counselor, a Freudian therapist who will tell you the meaning of your dreams. Vedanta is not interested in that. Anything that comes and goes, anything that's an object of your experience, anything that is in Sanskrit jada, something that arises in your awareness, not interested in that. Vedanta is interested in the underlying consciousness itself. So that's one point. But more practically, there are many, many instances where some spiritual guidance has been received in dreams. It's true, it's there. Some of the contents of dreams might sometimes be useful in spiritual life. Some, not all. How do I know? First of all, don't give it too much importance. Second, always match it with the teachings of the spiritual masters. Match it. Does it go along with the gospel of Ramakrishna or the Gita or the Upanishad? Is it in line with the traditional teaching? That's a safety net for you. You must compare it with that. Or is it telling me to do something completely crazy? Then it's not coming from a spiritual source. It might be coming from your own mind. So be careful about the contents of your dream. It's good to be aware, but the attention is always directed to the one who is dreaming. Second, when he says, Papaji said, meditate and go into a state where, like deep sleep. He's right also, because the closest we can understand to samadhi, the closest experience we all have, which we understand, is deep sleep. But samadhi is not deep sleep. Anybody who falls asleep is not in samadhi.
Are you sure?
So often you see a lot of people in samadhi in Vedanta classes. So most of that is not real samadhi. That's more the other thing, the deep sleep. You see, this is the problem. Vedanta is supposed to induce samadhi. Mind goes up, and so Ramakrishna goes into samadhi. When you listen to Vedanta, when you hear that thou art, you're supposed to go into samadhi and realize I am the one, I'm one with God. But it induces the other kind of. That's the problem. So, yes, deep sleep is a very good paradigm for meditation. When I'm meditating, the closest I can understand to the deepest meditation is in deep sleep, when I'm not aware of anything else at all. Awareness is completely withdrawn. So in that respect, deep sleep is similar to meditation. It's a good example, but it should not be misunderstood. You should not think clearly Papaji was not telling us to fall asleep. Right? So it's a powerful example. How much of my meditation is the deep absorption, deep sleep-like absorption. So that's one thing. I do not tell you to meditate on texts, that repeating the text or thinking about the text. No. What I'm actually telling you, what Vedanta is telling you, meditate on the purport of the text. That thou art. When I say meditate on that thou art, I'm not saying you repeat that thou art to yourself all the time. Or I am Brahman, you repeat I am Brahman all the time. One of our senior Swamis, after they got, many years ago, when they became monks, their guru was Swami Gambhiranandaji, the 11th president of the order. So these newly minted monks, they went to him and they said, this is what you have taught us, I am Brahman. That's part of the monastic vows. How many times should we repeat it? Japa. That's what we are used to repeating, you know. Krishna, Krishna, Rama, Rama, whatever you do, repeat a mantra, the divine name, what we did today. Here's the difference between bhakti and jnana. Swami Gambhirananda replied, that is meant for realization, it's not meant for repetition. You are supposed to get it. It's like somebody going to the physics class and saying, okay, we've been taught E is equal to mc squared. Professor, how many times should I repeat it? You're not supposed to repeat it, you're supposed to understand it. You say, no, I believe you, Professor. You're supposed to believe me, I want you to get me. Professor will be insulted if you tell him that I believe you. Okay, I believe you. You're a great guy, you won't be lying to me.
I wonder if that's kind of the same thing about that Swedish person that went to the Finland person. Sorry, the Finnish person. I guess that's what you call people from Finland. Where how many times do I have to repeat it so I will become enlightened? It's like, no, that's not the point. But then again, can you repeat something and become enlightened? I guess it's possible. Maybe that's what they were thinking. But I guess maybe it's along the lines of them thinking, like, if I say it enough times, then I'll become enlightened. Is it 150 or 200? The mantra. So I'm kind of wondering, I guess to repeat it is to reinforce the understanding, not necessarily to just repeat for the sake of repeating, or to repeat to what do you say, to get sleepy, I suppose. That's what that is something I do remember from other videos that are reacted from the other swamis and gurus. They give them a mantra to repeat. But I never, I thought you'd do that to kind of get yourself into a meditative state. It's like the noise that they make in a bowl, and they swirl it around and makes that little very high, I don't know, high pitched noise, I guess. And you focus on that, much like how I think Swami Sarvarpiyananda says, when you repeat the mantra, you focus on that. That way, you have a way of tuning out everything else. And this is something that I believe in my world religions class, where they say that you do that so that you can tone everything. And actually, it's maybe my reaction to one of his videos, where you tone everything out, and then when this is the only thing left, you tone that out. That one sound or the mantra helps you tone everything else out, and then you're only left with one more thing to tone out. But I think Osho goes along the lines like, why tone it out? Just listen to everything. Eventually everything becomes one. Maybe unified.
No, you're supposed to get it. I am Brahman, that thou art. You're supposed to get it. And then what about meditation? Once you get it, you dwell on what you have got, not on the words as such. The words are pointing to something within you. They are pointing to the real you. When you get it, you have got the real you. Dwell in that. That is Vedantic meditation. The words are an aid. One last point. Technique of meditation, do not keep changing. That's the danger of not having mantra diksha. Guidance from a guru. Otherwise, what has happened, I want spiritual life. Who wants it? The mind wants it. If the mind wants it and wants it independently, it wants something today, it wants something tomorrow, and the third thing the after. And nothing the day after that. And if your mind is the only thing which is deciding, then you are at the mercy of the mind. I want God realization. I want a method of practice. If I go to the Guru, and the Guru gives me a technique, and I vow to the Guru, I will follow this for the rest of my life. Now it is taken out of my, jurisdiction, the limits of the mind. The mind has to obey because I've given a commitment, I shall practice this. It is not appealing to many people in modern age. Oh, I've given up my independence. I am going to think for myself. Fool. You see what you're doing? You're completely identified with the mind and saying that I am this mind, and then therefore I think this mind, don't you see the ego involved there? This mind is superior to all other minds, including the mind of my Guru. Hence I shall listen to a mind. Yes, but what mind? I'm listening to only one mind, my mind. Why is your mind better than anybody else's mind? You know why we think that? We think we are the mind. The self in itself has independence. We are truly independent and free. But that independence is mixed up with the mind. And we think the mind has to be independent. This mind has to be independent of everybody else. Keep a little detachment between yourself and your mind. Even be skeptical of your own mind. If you're so good at being skeptical of everything except the mind, be a little skeptical of your own mind also. So, the Guru gives you a technique of meditation. Take it up, practice it seriously. You can read many things. You can learn many things. You can even try out different things. But the core practice which the Guru gives, this is the beauty of mantra diksha or some kind of initiation by a Guru in any tradition. Any tradition. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a man who was digging for water. And he dug a little bit and he said, there's no water here. I'll try there. Somebody said, you try there, that's a good spot. He goes and digs there. Within a few minutes, somebody else says, that's a really nice spot. And he goes and starts digging there. At the end of the day, he has tried a dozen different places, nowhere water. But if he had stuck to one place and dug deep enough in that place, probably he would have found water. That's what's happening. Many of these parts, maybe almost all of them, they're genuine spiritual teachings. Practice it, follow it. Take up one and follow it. Any question from the audience? We are running out of time. Please come. There's the microphone, use that. Please tell us your name.
My name is Swapan Sengupta.
Yes.
I'm from India. I would like to put a small question. What is the existence of the universe and how is it related to the spiritual world?
That's a small question. Okay, let's limit it at that. The answer is, of course, in Advaita Vedanta, the existence of the universe is Brahman. It's like this. You're asking, what is the existence of the wave and how is it related to the ocean? Something like that. The existence of the wave is the existence of water. It is water which constitutes the wave. It is wood which constitutes this altar. In fact, there is nothing in the wave other than the water. There is nothing in this altar other than the wood. The substance is the wood here. The substance is water there. The very existence or being of this universe is Brahman, Sat, pure existence. So according to Advaita Vedanta, pure existence is the ultimate spiritual reality. And it is your own nature. When you say that thou art, pure existence you are. That's what Vedanta is saying. What we are experiencing as the universe is that pure existence plus name and form. Sat plus Nama Rupa. That's what we are experiencing. So there's a direct answer to your question, but it's a difficult question, a difficult answer also. But the whole spiritual project of spirituality in Vedanta is conceived of as realizing yourself as that existence underlying the universe. Again, I'm quoting Meister Eckhart. Do you not see how he uses the words, Meister Eckhart? Ground of my soul is the ground of God. The ground means the existence. There is one existence which is that, God, and thou, the individual. And when you realize yourself as that existence, you find yourself one with God. Advaita goes so far as to say this entire universe borrows its existence from you. Not from you, Mr. Swapan Sengupta. But the reality behind this person, the reality is Sat. So that reality is borrowed by all these names and forms. It may sound incredible. Why does it sound incredible? Because we think they are independent existences. I am something separate from them. How are they borrowing existence from me? A good example is the dream example. When we are dreaming, you see people, other people, yourself, buildings, and so on and so forth. Things are happening. But when you wake up, what do you realize? All of them were my mind. True or not? Whatever you see, again, no confidence. Yes, whatever you see in the dream is your own mind. There's no doubt about it. It was generated by your mind. Therefore, the existence of every person in the dream, every building and road and the sky and the planet and the whole universe in the dream, the existence of it depends on your mind, because your mind generated it. That's an example. This is an example we are all familiar with. Vedanta goes one step further and says, this world which we are experiencing, there is one existence consciousness bliss which itself is manifesting as this world. So the existence of the universe and the quest of spirituality are one and the same in Advaita Vedanta. And difficult question, but very, very profound and deep question. Thank you. One more question. After this, we'll take one more question from the live audience here. So get ready with your questions. Yes.
This question is from Abani, who is a student from Howrah in India. You often emphasize in your lectures that truth, brahmacharya, ahimsa, and other moral virtues are the uncompromising prerequisites in any spiritual journey. But when disruptive external conditions and lust, greed, etc. distract us from the way, what is one's duty? In one of Swamiji's letters to Mary Hale, he urges her to clear the deck for battle, either boga or yoga, achieve happiness or achieve greatness.
Yes.
Given that, for a student like me, what inner qualities should one take into account to make a decision regarding one's way of life? Householdership or monasticism? And there is a similar question that comes from Sayantan in Detroit, who says, how can a serious spiritual aspirant who does not have a natural faith in a personal God provide his mind sufficiently strong arguments to counter distractions, provocations, etc., in order to attain perfect chastity in thought, word, and deed?
Yes. The whole thing goes back to, what do I want in life? And the core idea should be that I want this thing which is being promised in religion. All religion in different language, different mythology, it promises that there is something where you find the solution to the problems of life. Call it God or Brahman or Allah or Nirvana, whatever you call it. So there is such a thing. Do I want it or not? Truth is most valuable. Internal truth. Do I really want it inside? Now the answer will be usually a mixed answer. All of these questions, they all reflect a mixed answer. He says, I want it, but not too much. I think it was Saint Augustine who prayed, Lord, give me perfect chastity, but not right yet. Not right now. So that clarity is something that will not come immediately. We have to work upon it. And the way to work upon it is to keep on emphasizing the reality of Brahman and the illusory nature of the world, that all meaning and value and happiness are concentrated in spirituality, and what we are seeking outside is a fool's errand. If it does not seem to be a fool's errand, then try it out. Try it out. Try it out intelligently. Sri Ramakrishna once, he said, I had the desire to wear an expensive shawl. And of course, Mathur Babu supplied those things to him. So Mathur Babu bought a very expensive shawl and gave it to him. And Sri Ramakrishna wrapped it around himself and he said, oh my mind, this is called an expensive shawl. Look at it. People wear it and they forget God. They become vain. After some time, he got disgusted with it. He took it off and he threw it on the ground. Then, not content with that, he spat upon it. And then he jumped upon it and stomped upon it. And then he was about to set fire to it when Mathur Babu came and rescued the poor shark. Now that's a lesson to us. Not that you should treat your expensive clothes like that. What it means is, all the experiences we are seeking in life, good. Go into it intelligently, with awareness, and then evaluate. What did I want? What did I get?
Great advice. Go into what you want intelligently, and what did I want and what did I get? The thing is, though, is that I guess the answer is always temporary gratification, temporary happiness, temporary this, temporary that. And what did I get? Well, big bill and expensive cloth or expensive car, and the gratification, the happiness, all of that didn't last very long. But I got a bill that lasted a long time. I'm hoping that's the answer. I'm predicting here, but I think that's kind of something. I think a lot of, I don't know. I mean, I look at Western very specifically because it's very relatively close by, and there's a lot of people who think happiness comes from external things, or happiness comes from buying things, and it's true to a degree. It's very temporary, and I'm wondering, are people lying to themselves, or are people not getting it, that, you know, when you buy the newest, latest technology, or the latest fashion, or the latest whatever, that this happiness only lasts for so long, and then they don't see this, that it's only temporary. It's like in their face, but they're just avoiding it. Perhaps it's like they can see it, but they're avoiding it. What they end up doing is buying something else, then buying something else to keep that happiness going, and have to buy something else, and then something else.
Keep the Vedantic truth in the background and keep checking back with it. Did they speak the truth about the world? You say yes, they did. There is one unchanging reality which will give true satisfaction to the heart, to all our aspirations. You know, when you say Ananda in Satchidananda, we think about it as happiness and bliss, but not just happiness and bliss. All human aspiration, meaning in life, purpose in life, the whole value, all of that, from aesthetics to everything is involved in that Ananda. So the whole culmination, satisfaction of life lies in Ananda, and Vedanta says that Ananda is Brahman. Once you convince yourself of this more and more, it's an ongoing process. The mind will begin to turn that way. Where the mind finds reality, where the mind finds satisfaction, the mind will turn there. As the mind turns there, the other qualities come by themselves. I'm not telling you something new. It's just the same 4 qualifications of the Vedantic student: Viveka and Vairagya. It's only when Viveka is done like this again and again, the reality of Brahman and the illusoriness and the ephemeral nature of worldly experiences. Look at it. See it as a fact. That's Viveka. As you see it more and more, the Vairagya will come of itself. If you try to forcefully develop Vairagya, it will be a conflict. You know what is the nature of a conflict? I want to give it up, and I want it at the same time. Same mind, I want to give it up, and I want it. The doctor says, I have to give up the cookies, and mind says, I want the cookies. I genuinely want to give up the cookies, and I genuinely want the cookies also. Conflict. So there Viveka helps and dissolves that conflict. When I genuinely want God, one more way, a powerful way. Again, love of God, some kind of bhakti is a great help. Why is it a great help? Even in the path of knowledge. You see, the pull of the world is a pull of the heart. It's not knowledge. I know Brahman, is real and I know the world is false. I know that there is quite possibly I am a witness consciousness and so on and so forth. That's at the level of knowledge. But I want is at the level of the heart, of the emotions. I know something, I want something else. I know Brahman is real, the world is an appearance, the heart is not convinced. I want the world. What will work there? More books and Vedanta classes will not work there. No. That's why for Vedanta students, a very strict framework is given, a moral framework. Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadamadi, Shat Sampatti and Mumukshutvam. You have that fencing, then Vedanta will work very well. If you do not have that fencing, then Vedanta is often, it's dissipated. So, where do you get these experiences? Where do you get these qualities? Bhakti works at the level of the heart. Jnana, intelligence, knowledge works at the level of intellect. So bhakti works at the level of the heart. The nature of bhakti is I want. What is the nature of desire? I want. What is the nature of bhakti? I want. Only thing is the object of wanting is changed. I want the world is replaced with God. I want God, same I wanting, same passion, same greed, that becomes bhakti then, when it becomes connected to God. The same thing becomes passion and lust and greed when it becomes connected to the world. So bhakti works at the level of the heart, at the level of the desires, and transforms you there. The qualities which you're looking for will come automatically. Bhakti draws it in its wake. All those qualities come automatically. Last question from the live audience. Please come forward.
It just makes me wonder now if bhakti is just inevitable on everything. Just because we have, well, he says desires, but I've always understood bhakti as devotion. I guess the negative sense of devotion is desire, where you're devoted to working something, and the bad end of that is desire for something. Because the desire, it almost seems like that in a way, desire for something. But anyways, I always thought of bhakti as devotion, but it's always been understood as love for God. But it seems like bhakti is just in about everything. Or perhaps that is something that just cannot be avoided in life. And the same thing with karma, perhaps, because again, karma is very much what you think and what you do, which is something that you do on an everyday basis. But amazingly, I do like the idea of devotion. Devotion in your work, again, doesn't have to be towards a god, but just a devotion to do good, to be a good human being. As Lakhani would say, spiritual humanism. To be just a good human being, to do good in the world. And this is a very simple thing, a very simple task to do. I mean, for some people, I suppose. I don't know if it's for everyone, but I assume it's simple. I do it, it's simple enough, I don't mind people, and I try to be nice and all of that things. So, I like devotion because that's something that we can apply to anything that we do. We devote ourselves to doing what it is. And it's kind of like something that Dandapani spoke of, is focus on what you're doing and don't be distracted by anything else. When you have something to do, focus on it if you can. Obviously, some people have to multitask, but generally speaking, when you have something that you really want to do, focus on it. That way you can give it 100% of your attention.
Swamiji, I'm Jyoti Agarwala.
Yes.
Last week I was at an investment conference, and they were talking about demographics and the future of what we can expect in the next maybe 50 years or more. And one of the speakers invited us to think of this idea that the way we know life today, that you get an education, that you get into some kind of work, productive work, that may all change because this advent of artificial intelligence. And a lot of young people are not finding jobs, college graduates. So what will they do, or what will life look like if the work that we, are supposed to be doing, or we think that we will have a life that we will get, go for a job or get married or do this or do this. What would life look like? Any thoughts on that?
Okay, real quick. So again, Sadhguru talked about this in, I believe, in one of his speeches in the UN, I believe, talking about artificial intelligence. He says life would be great because now you can focus on more about life than work or anything else. But a lot of people are looking at this like as a dread situation. And don't get me wrong, the transition, it seems like transitional periods tends to be the most painful. It's because we're going from a period at which we are comfortable with to an uncertain period that we don't know too much about. And that uncertainty is, generally speaking, painful. Because, I mean, she's right. I mean, you look at a lot of automation, mostly. Maybe not necessarily AI just yet. But I remember looking at Amazon developing this robots that can pick up a package and move a package. Pick up a package and just move it. Just pick it up there and move it. Simple. But that's going to take a lot of laborers' jobs. What are they going to do? Jobs are not opening up every day. But then you got to look at the situation which YouTube brought in many more jobs. Like everyone can become their, I won't say their boss because YouTube's still your boss, but streaming, reviewers of products. You have people who make money on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube and Facebook and all of these other things. Jobs that were never there before. Now, I mean, the population is growing. The number of manual jobs may be steady. I'm not sure whether, more manual jobs are being introduced or being reduced by robotics. Where you even in car manufacturing, there used to be a lot of people on the line. Now there's very few because a lot of the very, welding, a very simple area has been replaced by robotics. And then now you have all these fancy machinery where it maybe took a couple of people. Now one person can do it because he can clamp there and then weld there with a big machine that just comes in and welds it for you. A lot of things are becoming simple. But yeah, I mean, again, this is going to be that transitional period where you still need people, but at the same time, there's not enough jobs because most of it's been replaced by robotics. Or most of the manual jobs have been replaced by robotics. I remember seeing this thing in Japan where you check in to a hotel, but there's no person. It's a screen, and you just do whatever on a screen to give you a car key, a hotel key, and it's kind of strange, I will say. But humans pretty good at adapting. I just don't know, but I'm not sure. It's getting to the point where how many more entertainment jobs or non-manual labor jobs is going to open up to compensate for the lack of manual jobs there is now. I don't know. It's going to be tough. But so far, it's been kind of compensating. There's a lot less people getting into manual labor and more into like the entertainment business. YouTube being one, Twitch being another, Instagram being one, Facebook being another probably. It's just people talking in front of a webcam.
It's a very broad question, but it's a vital question. There are some eternal truths which do not undergo change. Spirituality is about that. But life also undergoes change. The external realities of life undergo change, and never more so than today. I'm reminded again of, I mentioned Peter Drucker earlier, Management Challenges for the 21st Century, one of his lesser known books, but a very interesting book. There he points out that the challenges of our time are unique. You might say every person said it in their time, the challenges of our time are unique. No. If you look back upon history, there really never has been a time like this now, the last 100 years and especially now. The pace of change is so tremendous and so far-reaching and deep. He says, for example, all of our ancestors, say going back to the time of our grandfathers and before that, almost all of us, our ancestors, grandfathers, grandparents and great-grandparents, going back to so many generations, centuries and millennia, They lived where they were born. They lived there, they married there, they had children there, they lived out their lives, and they died where they were born. They worked with the professions of their fathers and forefathers, most of them. There was no radical change. Not much. There was, but not much. Not heavily disruptive. They ate the food most people ate at that time for generations, for centuries together. They wore the same dresses, more or less. They had more or less the same kinds of governments. They had more or less the same kinds of implements, technology and tools for centuries and millennia. But today, if you look at it today in this world, a person is born somewhere, educated somewhere else, works somewhere else, and lives out the rest of his or her life somewhere else. The person not only does not do what his father or mother or great-grandfather, grandmother did, but does something different, very different occupations which did not exist, let alone 100 years ago, did not exist last year. And not only does new things, continuously changes that also. Even up to our fathers, our parents' generations, they mostly did something for the whole of their lives, mostly, and then they retired out of a job in a company or in the government or somewhere. But now young people go from job to job, very different professions, within a matter of years. Where will you live? What will you eat? Whom will you marry? How will you live? What will you do? Your own identity, politics, gender, all these are open now. There is a tremendous degree of freedom now. Now, what do I say from the point of view of spirituality, especially Vedanta? The importance of spirituality is increased manifold now. Drucker in that book says, wisdom is most important now. Young people, even before they are mature, they have to take decisions now. Earlier decisions were taken. You live, what decision will you take? You live where your grandparents have lived. You do what your family has always done. You eat what people there have eaten. It's just more or less fixed. You didn't have much freedom at all. But now you have freedom across many degrees, many parts of life.
Yeah, back then it was very much simpler because there was not that much you can do. You have more freedom today and more people depressed. It's really weird. This is the thing that I've talked about, and it's very interesting. It's like then an experiment that I remember, again, fact check that, but it's they did an experiment with people that went into an ice cream shop with 200 and some odd flavors, and then another group of people who went into an ice cream shop with 3 flavors. And people who came out with, the people that came out from the ice cream shop with 3 flavors were much happier and more satisfied than people who came out the shop that had 250 different flavors. Because it's like, oh man, I could have picked a better one than this. More options. It's really weird that to say that more options make you more depressed, because you don't know, unless you tried all your options, which can be impossible or most very difficult at the least to be satisfied, to know exactly what you want. Again, if you're able to try out all 250 ice cream flavors and you say, okay, this is the one I want, then it's much simpler. Whereas you had 3, you can try all 3 right then and there. You know, it's like, okay, I like chocolate, strawberry, or vanilla.
And the decisions you take at a young age will influence the rest of your life very powerfully. You do not have infinite flexibility.
Yeah.
You can't keep changing your decision, making up for errors later on. You cannot. So wisdom is most important. And this wisdom, it says, even worse, it's not rooted in communities and families, because communities and families are gone. So ultimately, this wisdom has to be rooted in the individual. And that's why spirituality is very important. Where are you at home? The concept of home, Pico Iyer, the famous travel writer, he gave a TED talk on the concept of home. He says, you know what's the largest population now, a group of population are the homeless, not in the sense of being without a home, but they do not have a particular country or place to call there. There are people in this room who have come from different continents, different places, and gathered together. Look at New York itself. At this time, the only root you can find is within yourself. And the only route way you can find roots within yourself is through spirituality. The importance of spirituality is many times more now than it was earlier. There are no more, for many, many people, there are no support structures anymore. except what you can find within yourself. Your home is the spirit, is Brahman. It is strange that the definition of what was a monk, aniketaha, one who has no fixed home, the holy wanderer, is now a definition that applies to large sections of the population of the world. But you must have the monk spirituality. Internally, the monkey must become the monk. The monkey mind must become the monk mind if you are to find happiness. Otherwise, there's no other way. How powerful with Vivekananda's insight that the secular and the spiritual are not two different things. There is only one life. He says there is only one life. You cannot have two lives anymore. There is only one life. And that life had better be a spiritual life. You may be a corporate executive, you may be a monk in a monastery, you may be a teacher in a school or a nurse in a hospital. You can certainly and must spiritualize your life. And people are doing it, you know. He doesn't have to preach. You don't have to preach. A person who was nurse in a hospice, terminal care situation, he said that I am amazed at how many people among the caregivers and those who are dying, both sides, how many people have some kind of spiritual practice. So it's so widespread in the society. It's a silent revolution we are not very much aware of. It is widespread. Everybody seeks meaning. Everybody is seeking roots. Everybody is seeking spiritual resources to cope with life. What is behind the growth of positive psychology? Why is it not enough to cure mental illness? Why do we need resilience and sustenance from within positive psychology? The entire range. The popularity of Eastern religions all over the world. Because they offer resources for resilience, for coping with life. So very important question, Jyotiji, and I hope that conference was successful. Somebody said graduates cannot find jobs because the professor is told, remember what you are teaching them in the classroom will be useless by the time they graduate.
That was Bill Gates' message. He didn't go to college.
Yeah.
Because he thought
well, he is partially responsible. He changed the world in a way which made it true, a self-fulfilling prophecy. But this is the world we live in. In one sense exciting, another sense terrifying also. Mm-hmm. And some say it is a world for an ever younger person. Yes. Very good. Let me chant and then we'll come to a conclusion. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.
I don't disagree with them at all in the end there. You look at kind of again, I don't think this is something that I keep saying. I used to think just Western society, but I think it was something more than that. But it's the only thing I could really confirm at the moment. But I think this is a developed nations thing or developed area because it doesn't necessarily happen everywhere in Western society either. It's developed and also cultural, of course. And again, you look at the dating life. It's really weird why I'm bringing that up, but anyways. But it goes back along the lines of what he was talking about and with the family, about how you no longer have a home, how we're becoming more, I won't say necessarily independent, but self-reliant because the nuclear family is being destroyed. A lot of people are saying it's because of the extremist left, pushing you don't need no man or whatever that is. And it's kind of sad, and the society that's bringing up is very kind of disturbing though, and they don't want. It's really weird that they don't want to look at realities. Again, it's not to say that every person who grew up in certain aspects is going to turn out bad, but it has a high probability. I'm being vague here. If you understand what I'm saying, you understand what I'm saying. And but yeah, I mean, you look at the simpler times when there wasn't a lot of options. It was very simple. You had only a select few people to to marry from and a select few things that you had to do. Very simple times, there was not a lot of demand for everything. Now you look at modern times where you can do anything you want, and yet somehow people are very sad. They are so free today, they are so rich today, they can do so many things today, but yet somehow they are more sad today than they were in the past. Don't get me wrong, the past had problems, but those problems are quelched now for the most part, and then all these petty problems seems to be the bigger deal for them. And this is, I guess this is the kind of thing about the reason why I say developed areas is because developed areas, there tends to be less of the major problems: hunger, food, and shelter. And perhaps you want to include protection with that shelter, because if you live in an area where there's no real wars, or far enough away from war where you don't see it firsthand or experience it in some way, form, or fashion, then you're gonna be ignorant of the fact of the world. America is very much that. America, I watch a lot of, I wouldn't say I watch a lot of reacts to, like, people watching, like, America is a very cannot be invaded by other countries because, you know, if they come from the Pacific Ocean, there's a big ocean, or Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean, there's a big ocean which satellites can pick them up. Well, it's just very true. A lot of countries don't have a very big navy because in the East, or Europe and Asia, most of the wars were just within the continent, the big Eurasian continent itself. They don't need massive boats, but America always had to have. It's the only way it can, bring its power to the world, because America is kind of isolated, and because of this isolation, there's not a lot of wars within America, so we create our own problems. But yeah, they don't realize the badness of life itself, of bad people, and they don't experience war. They don't know what struggle is, because everything is kind of out of sight, out of mind kind of deal, I suppose you could say. I don't know, I'm saying a lot here. And there's so much to derive from what Swami here says at the very end, because this goes to a lot of issues in terms of developed areas, in terms of how we are functioning as a society, how people either appreciate or don't appreciate the lives that they have now because of where they live, or because of how developed their area is. It is a lot to unpack there, and I'm saying a lot, probably not making too much sense, but that's the only thing I can really say. What he said at the end was just a lot. It was really a lot. Anyways, that's my reaction to Ask Swami with Swami Sarvarpyan on May 21st, 2017. Man, that is a while ago. Anyways, if you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.